Okay, now we're live. Do we get an indication anywhere of who's actually on the call with us?
We should get an indication from the Google Plus system for people that have joined via the Google Plus system. But for people that are just looking in on the video presentation through the link, we probably will not get information from them.
And so I think what we'll do is just wait 2 minutes, and then you can begin, Ken.
Okay.
For those who have joined, I just wanted to kick off our inaugural Google-aided OIN Hangout by welcoming you and obviously thanking you for your participation in the OIN community. What we'll be doing with this Hangout series is every other month we'll be sharing having a presenter come in to share some complementary activities that are going on in the field of intellectual property rights management and patent non-aggression. Today we're fortunate to have a relatively young organization and the CEO, Ken Seddon, who's come in to run LotNet, which is a rapidly growing organization that works to create a situation where privateering is minimized as a problem or reduced or to the point of elimination, depending upon how many participants they can bring in. And as I said, they're rapidly growing, and I think it's something I'd like to commend to your attention, and that's why Ken will be making this inaugural presentation. If you have questions, if you can type them in, Ken will address the questions as they come in order to ensure that it's as participative and as active a dialogue as possible. Again, we welcome your participation, and questions are invited. Ken, now I'll turn it over to you, and if you can continue, you can begin your presentation.
Thanks, Keith. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I don't know if you can see me, or in a second we'll get the slides to come up. Just for a quick introduction of myself, I've been in the high-tech IT world for 25 years now. I originally started as an engineer at Motorola for 10 years. I was at Intel for 7 years. The chief IP counsel of Mnemonics, went on to Micron, worked at Apple for 3 years, and then most recently was the vice president of IP at ARM, which makes the microprocessors for all smartphones and tablets and whatnot. So for my backgrounds all come from companies that have substantial patent portfolios, but more importantly, has a very significant patent troll problem. So I think that's why Lot brought me on board, is I can truly understand from multiple industries the problems that companies of various sizes have when it comes to patent trolls or NPEs. On the line today, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to give them the ability to speak, but we have a couple of VIPs I just wanted to let everybody know has joined us. First off, we have Michael Cunningham was going to join us today. Michael is the Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Red Hat. You may recognize Michael because he is also the Chairman of the Board for OIN. Michael is also on the board of LOT, and I consider him the Chairman of our board as well. And he's one of the many reasons why I consider LOT to be a very much a sister organization to OIN. Is Michael able to join us on the phone? No, perhaps not. maybe he can jump in later if he gets on. The other VIP we have on the line is Eric Shulman. Eric is the who I consider to be the godfather of LOT. He originally started this program when he was at Google, and now, of course, he is the chief IP counsel at Uber, and so he's certainly a huge zealot and advocate for LOT, and he can speak from experience as to what its real origins were and how the benefits that it's providing to Uber. So, Eric, were you able to get on audibly? No, maybe not. Okay, well, if Eric or Michael, if you're able to join us at any time during the presentation, please just speak up, and we certainly welcome you. If we might then turn to the slides, Ed, if you wouldn't mind start projecting the slides.
They should be being projected right now, Ken.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. That looks great. So what I'd like to do is just kind of give a brief introduction to what the patent troll problem is, and then give you a high-level overview of what LOT is. As Keith said, I certainly welcome any questions that you might have about this. I think LOT would be of tremendous value to all OIN members, regardless of your size. And I want to make sure this is one first opportunity to really get to know us, and I certainly welcome the input and the perception that the OIN community has. So for the purposes of today, I'm not trying to draw any distinctions between a patent assertion entity, a non-practicing entity, or a patent troll. Call them a PAE, an NPE. I'm not trying to draw any philosophical debate on that. We're simply referring to, in general, the problem that's happening with these legal entities that are out there suing companies for large sums of money, which we are feeling hurts innovation. So if I might turn to slide 3, I know a lot of the companies that I've met with had the hope that recent changes to patent law with AIA, the American Inventors Act, and a recent Supreme Court case, that the patent troll problem has gone away. And unfortunately, it is not. And I think the stark reality is if your company hasn't had much experience with patent trolls, then it's simply a matter of time. As we're showing on slide 3, 2015, this year, is on pace to be a record year for patent litigation. It's already going to exceed, the previous record was 2013. There's already been over 3,000 patent lawsuits filed just in the first 6 months of this year alone. And if we turn next, you can see in the next slide, even though there was a little bit of dip in litigation last year, which we think was in large part to the recent Supreme Court case, patent litigation is alive and well. And we know, unfortunately, that patent trolls, these PAEs, are responsible for just over 84% of all the patent litigation that occurs in the United States. And breaking some of the statistics down on the next slide, I know a lot of folks have the perception that only big companies ever get sued by patent trolls. But there's a couple of key statistics I wanted to point out for this community. And the reality is that both small and medium-sized companies are the targets of these patent trolls. One key item I wanted to highlight is the average revenue of a defendant in a patent troll lawsuit is $10.8 million. This is not a problem that only the wealthy, large companies, this is something that very small companies are quite often faced with. And the reality is that the litigation defending yourself from a patent troll can cost yourself over $3 million per lawsuit. But in the big picture, the reason why what LOT is focusing on is worldwide, companies spend over $29 billion a year defending themselves or settling with patent trolls. And our philosophy is that this is money that should not be spent by companies. This is money that's far better spent on innovation, improving your products, improving manufacturing, reducing costs, and better channel just to provide a better experience for your customers. So the sole focus of LOT is to try to address this $29 billion problem that's plaguing all companies of all sizes and industries. If you show in the next slide, I provided some data about what's happening in the U.S. Patent Office. I wish I could say this problem is going to get better over time, but the reality is it's likely to be getting worse over the next couple of years. As you can see, the U.S. Patent Office, the number of patents they're issuing every year is growing. Just over 300,000 new patents were issued last year alone, and over 600,000 new patents are being filed every year. One of the new trends that we show in the next table is we've seen a big shift in what types of patents that are trolls buying. Historically, patent trolls were very lazy, and they would buy low-tech patents that they thought would have broad applicability that might read on internet transactions or websites. But we're finding, because of recent changes in patent law, that patent trolls are having to become more sophisticated and buy high-tech patents. As this slide shows, last year alone, patent trolls acquired over 15,000 patent assets and added them to their arsenal. And over half of those, over 50%, related to software, whether it be application software, cloud computing, networking, wireless. Patent trolls are preparing for the future. They know they have to become more sophisticated. So this, anybody that's involved with networking, cloud computing, or software is going to likely be a target for some of these patent troll lawsuits to come. And really, on the next slide, as we demonstrate, at the end of the day, it's companies that have ourselves to blame. And this could quite possibly be one of the most important slides I'm going to show with you today. We're finding that the real root of the patent troll problem is that what's happening is that companies themselves are selling to patent trolls who are then turning around and suing other companies. Over 81% of all the patent litigation that occurs by patent trolls are patents that originated from companies themselves. So at the end of the day, we really only have ourselves to blame. And the reason why this is significant, if you look at LOT, we have 8 board members and a very diverse group. We've got Google, Canon, Dropbox, Red Hat, SAP, Pure Storage, Uber, Solar City. These are very diversified companies. From a technology standpoint, from a product standpoint, there really isn't much overlap. But the one thing all of these companies have in common is we share a common philosophy that companies and executives should be focusing on making good products. Companies should not be focusing their resources on selling patents to patent trolls. And that's really the genesis of LOT. The patent system has been around for over 200 years. And during that time, companies regularly have used their patents to defend themselves in lawsuits, to protect other companies from suing themselves, to negotiate a cross-license, to prevent their competitors from copying their product. So, all of these we feel are legitimate traditional uses of IP. And philosophically, LOT has no problem with any of these uses of IP. We feel this is fair play, and this is what was intended by the original Constitution. What we are solely focused on is this problem of patent privateering and patent trolls, with companies selling to these entities that go around, start harassing and suing companies, which we feel is a real drain on innovation. So by being a LOT member, it's important to us and all of my board members that as a company, as a member, you're still allowed to use your IP for traditional reasons. The sole focus is to try to immunize yourself from this patent troll problem. So as we talk about on slide 11, there have been, we're relatively new. I've only been part of LOT now for 6 months. And in a lot of my conversations with companies, there's a lot of misperceptions out there, because I understand there's other alternative solutions and a lot of misinformation being sent around. I just wanted to clear up some things up front, what LOT is not. By joining LOT, you are certainly not given a cross-license to your IP to any of the other members. In fact, you're free to assert your IP directly against any of the other members of LOT. Nobody within the community, so no one's getting a free access to your portfolio. You're free to assert your patents against anybody you want as long as you own it. LOT does not buy or own or sell any patents. In fact, we are a nonprofit organization, and unlike some of the other alternatives that are out there, like RPX, we don't have shareholders. LOT is not focused on profits. We do not make money. I'm not worried about building equity like some other organizations are. LOT is a purely nonprofit organization. That's my job is to add value to our members and try to solve the patent troll problem for our members. And I think the last point, another important distinction between LOT and some of the other organizations that are out there is our members, we count our members, we have Canon, who is the #3 patent issuer in the United States. We also have Google, who's the #8 patent issuer. We do include not only startup companies, but we also have large patent holders as well, who it's very important to us that companies be able to have a good relationship with the patent office. So rest assured, you're never going to hear LOT criticizing the patent office as the reason for the whole patent troll problem. Instead, for us, we feel that it's companies selling these patents to trolls that's the root of the problem, and that's what we're trying to address through the LOT network. So to summarize on the next slide, just some key on slide 12. As a member of LOT, you're allowed to use your IP. You can sue other members of LOT. You can license them. You can choose not to license them. And it's really easy to join. There's no burden to be a member. You simply sign the agreement. There is, unlike some other organizations like RPX Open or Unified, you do not have to notify us if you sell your patents or enter into any sort of IP transaction. You don't have to give us a heads up before you sue anybody or license anybody. You're free to conduct your normal business with your IP, and there's no obligation to share any of that information with anybody in LOT. And last, of course, you can withdraw from LOT at any time, and any future IP that you file is going to be completely unaffected by the LOT agreement. So jumping ahead now to slide 14, I can kind of give you a quick overview of how LOT works. So in the first instance, the large oval represents the LOT network. Today, we currently have 29 members within LOT. Those 29 companies have over 325,000 worldwide patent assets, which includes amongst those 99,000 US patents in application. So basically, by being part of LOT, you are immunizing your company against any of those patents should they leave the LOT network and fall in the hands of a patent troll. So the way it works, if one of our members sells their IP to somebody who's not a member, say company 3, and they turn around and try to assert that a patent troll, and they try to assert those patents against other LOT members, you're immunized. And odds are you won't even get that lawsuit because LOT is very transparent about everything we do, and in fact, we list our members on the website. So patent trolls will know in advance who's very likely to already have a license to that patent to even spare you the hassle of getting sued to begin with. And rest assured, if that patent troll sells that patent to somebody else downstream, company 4 or 5, whatever games they might try to play, you are forever immunized against that patent. But as we show in the next slide, you're still allowed to use your IP for traditional reasons. If you want, you are free to assert your patent against any company that's not a member of LOT. An operating company, a competitor, if you want to put your commit your patents to a patent pool, all of that activity is fine and well and is completely unaffected by the LOT agreement. And as we show on the next slide, and this may be more important to some of the smaller companies, even though we have large IP holders in our network, just because you've joined LOT, you really haven't disadvantaged yourself with respect to those large companies. If you want to assert your IP against any member of LOT or cross-license your IP, you're free to do so. And more importantly, you're free to not do that. You're allowed to keep your powder dry and not give any other rights to any of the members within the LOT network. And on the next slide, as we show, we feel LOT really is a very, very low cost and reasonable solution. Now, when you compare us to, say, Unified or RPX, who typically charges hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for annual membership, or even millions of dollars in a year. Most companies will pay only a couple of $1,000s to be a member of LOT. And even if you are a large company, or if your company grows and becomes very successful, the most you'll pay is $20,000, and that's capped. On the next slide, another one of the common misperceptions that people have is that they feel there's no reason to join LOT because LOT members never sell any of their patents to begin with. So there's never any real value that they can use to justify to their CFO or to the executive team that there really is risk reduction as being part of LOT. And this data is provided to kind of help clear that up. So this was done back when LOT had only 21 members. We've since grown since then, so these numbers are likely to go up. But in the last 2 years, the 21 members of LOT have already transferred or divested over 2,100 U.S. patents and applications outside the network. And that represents 3,300 worldwide assets. And if you look at the technology areas that those are in, these are not in trivial areas that nobody uses. These patents related to wireless communications, digital data processing, transmitting data or images, things that are likely to be relevant to most companies. Now, unfortunately, if you join LOT today, you won't be getting the license to these assets because they've already left the network. And if folks are curious, there's already been one example that we found where a LOT member transferred some IP to one of their partners. Again, this was a legitimate business transfer. They gave some IP to help support one of their partners. That partner, as it turns out, went bankrupt, and on the verge of bankruptcy, sold their patents to a patent troll who has now gone on and sued companies in the United States. Now, the good news is, the other members of LOT who were members at the same time that the patent was owned are already immunized, and they need not worry about that lawsuit. But I just want to let folks know there really is value in being part of LOT. And going forward on the next slide, that value only grows over time. Sorry, back up one. Just on the, yeah, here we go. So this is kind of giving you a visualization of what is in the LOT portfolio. I know some folks think that LOT is from companies like either JP Morgan Chase or Ford or Mazda, companies that are completely outside of your product area and therefore aren't relevant to your product line. But this is a breakdown of what is inside the LOT network. We have, like I said, over 325,000 assets. And this pie chart represents our top 14 largest categories. And at a minimum, LOT has over 2,000 patents in every category that you see on the screen. And I know in some cases, we have more patents in one of these categories than most OIN members have in their entire portfolio. And what I think is most relevant to the OIN community is that our largest category is G06F. And I have yet to find a company that doesn't at least file some of their patents in G06F, which is the patent code for digital patents related to digital data processing. So, I strongly believe, and I'm glad to provide more detailed information with any company to show what patents we may have that would be of great value to you. But we have over 17,000 patents in digital data processing, which I think is going to be of value to everyone that joins. And certainly we have patents on medical diagnosis, wireless technology, image processing, cloud computing, networking, you name it. And we likely have hundreds, if not thousands, of patents in that area, which would be relevant to your company. And just to kind of further highlight that, on the next slide is we kind of did some, just for chagrins, we did some analysis of comparing the portfolios of some companies to others. So, I won't name names, but this represents what overlap there is between some companies. This is social media companies. We did this for Facebook. How does Facebook portfolio overlap to LOT? And as it turns out, 90% of the Facebook portfolio is in one of the top categories of lot. So the assumption that we're making here is Facebook is filing patents in the same technology area that lot members represent, so therefore the lot network portfolio would be of great value to Facebook. And on the next slide, we picked a business in a completely different industry. This was for Bank of America, who you might think has nothing to do with Google or Canon, but they have an 82% overlap between their patent portfolio and what's in the lot network. And again, a lot of this has to do with Geo6F, which probably overlaps with every company that's out there. So I haven't got any questions yet. I don't know, Ed or Keith, are you seeing anything on your end?
No.
Okay, maybe we'll just hold that off to the end.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to share, if you can just go ahead and put it on the next slide about the Supplier Program. Like I mentioned, LOT is a nonprofit, and my job is to work for my member companies. One of the feedback that I've gotten from some of our members, for example, Ford and Mazda are both members of LOT. They both have told me they're not worried about the other company suing them directly. Ford and Mazda are very unlikely to get into head-to-head competition. But where their IP risk comes from is their supply chain. Each of these companies has hundreds, maybe 1,000 suppliers that provides them all the components for their automobiles. And these are much smaller companies who may only have a handful of patents. And they're very worried about their supply chain, just like any company should be worried about their supply chain, because these suppliers have access to their technology, to their roadmap, they know where they're going, and they're in a unique position to generate IP that could be relevant to them. And they're financially maybe more at risk from going bankrupt. So LOT has retained a law firm that is available to help our members set up a program where they encourage their supply chain to join LOT as well. And we've already had SAS is one of our members. They've already implemented this program where they use LOT as one of the criteria in selecting their suppliers. So just to let, I know this may sound daunting, but LOT has resources that we can make available to help you implement this at your company as well. So turning then to the next slide, just to kind of recap my introduction to LOT. As I said, we believe we've designed LOT to be applicable to anybody, any industry, and worldwide. We have patents in just about every technology area. We have members from across the globe. We encourage anybody to join. And being a member, it's very easy. You don't have to give notice of your transactions. You're still free to sell your IP if you want. You don't have to let anybody know about it. And we believe being part of LOT makes it easy, gives companies the ability to have greater freedom to operate. As companies evolve their product line and incorporate new technologies, odds are they're incorporating technology that others may have significant portfolios in. And by being a member of LOT, you don't have to worry about those patents should they fall in the hands of trolls. And ultimately, by having companies from multiple diverse industries and having a very diversified group of companies, both startups and large conglomerates, as the network grows, so too will your value proposition. And ultimately, our goal is to get every company to join LOT, and by doing that, we can solve for 84% of the patent litigation that is currently being brought about by patent trolls. So that is really my overview, my introduction. I'm glad to open this up any way we can to ask any questions. I don't know if we have the ability yet to, I know Eric is on, and so Eric, are you able to jump on?
I think Eric's on. We just can't hear him at this point. We're working on that. Ken, maybe just a couple of questions to advance the discussion. The structure on payments, can you go back to that slide maybe? And if you could talk a little bit more about that, just so that people have a clear idea of how how it's balanced based on the size of a company?
Yeah, so I think that's slide 17 in the presentation. And the way it was structured is we didn't want to, it's not really based on how large your portfolio is, it's how big your revenues are. So ultimately, LOT is about immunizing your product line from the patent troll risk. And obviously, the larger your company is, the more of a benefit that you're getting. So the big boys, like Canon, like Google, are paying the larger amounts because they're enjoying a larger benefit. Now, at the same time, they're also contributing typically more patents to this network. But we're really finding the bargain is really at the low end, where small, medium-sized companies, if you consider the amount of money that you're paying, whether it be $1,500, $2,500 a year, if you try to step back for a minute and ask yourself, how much time and energy would it take for you to negotiate a license to 325,000 worldwide assets? If you look at what the average cost of a license is out of AST or RPX, we truly feel like the cost of being a member of LOT, it really is trivial. And as we said, we are a nonprofit. That money is simply used to advance the growth of LOT and no more. So we really do feel like it's a great value proposition for small companies. And we really do sincerely want small companies to join. We want companies to kind of have some cover fire. We see, LOT as a way of shielding these smaller little companies from the patent troll threat so that they have a greater chance of succeeding and so they can become more successful. And as you grow and become more successful, the risk of patent troll litigation may grow, and the cost of your membership fee is only going to increase a slight amount.
So for the participants on the line who are obviously members of the OIN community, a lot of the same dynamic is at play where small companies are uniquely advantaged relative to large companies who participate because the large companies in our community are contributing the lion's share of the cross-license patents that are related to Linux and the Linux system. In your case, again, to reinforce the point you made, small, medium-sized companies uniquely benefit because they may have no patents or they may have a handful of patents, but they're gaining access to this springing license and protection from literally hundreds of thousands of patents and millions of patents over the next several years.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. And quite honestly, I don't think these smaller companies could ever negotiate those rights if they wanted to go off and do it on their own, one company, one agreement at a time. So it's really providing the opportunity to get access to this much IP at the same time of providing at such a low cost.
Right. And for large company discussions, you've obviously brought in some very significant patent holding companies. Your focus on, can you talk a little bit more, just reinforce the areas of focus in terms of the auto sector and electronics, software, just to kind of recap those points that you made.
No, thank you. And I forgot to mention that earlier. So I've been at LOT now for 6 months. We've had 2 board meetings, and at the last board meeting, we had our budget and marketing plan approved. And so we've, again, being responsive to our members, the 3 areas that LOT is looking to focus on growing membership are the financial services community, because they're very sensitive to electronic payments, cloud computing, cloud internet transactions. The second group is the automotive industry. We already have Ford and Mazda, and we've had great support and interest from the Japanese automakers and parts suppliers, in large part because the automakers are realizing that the automobile is becoming much more advanced. The automobile is incorporating wireless technology, networking technology, communication technology. A lot of their suppliers are using software technology, most likely open source. So as the automobile becomes more high-tech, they too are going to be in the crosshairs of the patent trolls. And of course, the OIN community. That was our #1 priority area. That's why we're here today, to try to encourage and invite all of OIN to join. We see this community of 1,700+ members of companies who have already committed to reducing their patent risk by licensing their patents to the Linux kernel. we commend them for that, and we feel that lot is just kind of the next natural half step, where all you're really doing is committing together not to sell your patents to patent trolls. Although you're still free to sell your patents to trolls if you want, it's just that those in the network are immunized against them.
Ken, this is Ed. We had a question via email from Kevin Fillo. He says, what exactly is the benefit for my company? Is this really a risk I need to spend money to address?
Well, yeah, certainly, and I think it's great to look at it from a CFO's perspective. I realize not everybody on the call may be a lawyer and is familiar with patent trolls. I think you have to simply look at it from an ROI analysis, where what is the cost of being a member? Realistically, it's a couple of $1,000s a year, most likely. And if a company has an issue, if cost is the reason you're not joining LOT, I would certainly want to talk with you first before you say no and understand that. But cost should never be a reason not to join. By being a member of LOT, all you're doing is giving up the ability to sell your patents to trolls. Now, if you have a patent in your portfolio, let's say you have 10 patents in your portfolio, you're a small company. Now, if you look at the data that AST most recently published, AST reported that the average selling price of a patent family is $40,000 per asset. So even if you say, I'm never going to sell to trolls, there was maybe, at most, a couple $100,000 that you were going to get for your entire portfolio. And that's absolute best case. But in exchange for that, you are getting immunized against 300,000 assets today. And quite honestly, we expect this to grow and be 1 million assets very quickly. You're immunizing yourself from any of those hundreds of thousands of patents if they end up in the hands of a troll. And just one troll lawsuit, the litigation fees alone can be over $3 million. And that was the data reported by AIPLA. So for practically no cost, you're reducing the risk that your company might face from these litigations. So it's a tremendous ROI analysis, I think.
And go ahead, Ken.
There's also this ancillary benefit, and we've gotten this from a lot of companies who appreciate when their suppliers join. I also have had a lot of member companies, certainly companies like SAS, like Newegg, who their company wants to publicly take a strong position against patent trolls. Newegg is very vocal that they're not going to put up with patent troll litigation, and by being a member of LOT, you're sending a strong message to your customers that you're not going to sell to trolls, that you can be a trusted supplier, and you're also sending the message that you're joining this community of companies who believe that it's what good corporate citizens should do, is not sell to trolls. And a lot of companies are joining purely for the PR and the reputation benefit that they're getting.
So in a real sense, what's happening is that just as OIN over the 10 years of its history has really, the mark that it's left is about the cultural transformation, the shift that's occurred in terms of how people participate and understand open source and are involved in an explicit understanding of the idea that where we cooperate and rely on each other, we will not sue each other, and elsewhere normal rules around patenting apply. What it's done in effect is really created a cultural transformation in the way that we collaborate, in the way we work together, and the way we think about patent non-aggression. And by bringing people together as a community, we see far less intra-community litigation as well. There's more of a bridge being built between our members. I think by the same token, what LOT is attempting to do, and really by design, when Eric was at Google and was kind of sculpting this and architecting it, it was really designed to have this long-term effect of transforming the culture of how patenting occurs and how patents are used and sold, so that we could really stop this problem that's been identified for the past several years, but has existed for quite some time. Well, you saw the pie chart slide where 82% of the patents that are ultimately being used in troll litigation are coming from operating companies. That trend has to change. operating companies need to develop a different attitude and approach as to how they're going to use patents and what happens to them at the end of life. And so what Ken's leading now is part of this transformation. It's very early days, but over time I see it having a parallel kind of effect to the effect that OIN has had on the notion of how we cooperate and compete and how we collaborate together. In the same token, you'll see more collaborative approaches to how patents are used coming about, and Ken has described it very well today, that we're in a situation where it's very important for companies to participate in order to gain access to the benefits.
Thank you, Keith. I completely agree. And one of the other benefits we're seeing is as the network grows, it really is, and I know this may sound a little corny, but it really does create this community of trust. I've already had members who join ask me to kind of facilitate a dialogue or an introduction or some cooperation between another member. And once two companies know that the other is a member of LOT, then you've taken off the table the risk that that company you're talking with might sell their patents to a troll and privateer against you. So it kind of helps lower the tension between companies, and actually we've had companies help each other finding prior art, help working with each other on initiating IPRs, or dealing, just kind of starting technology transfers and more cooperative, productive, business-related communication. So, and I can't overemphasize that the value of that for the smaller companies. I know it's very hard for a small company to get on the radar screen of a large company and say, hey, listen to me, or let's work together, or partner with me. But by you raising your hand and saying, hey, I'm already part of LOT, you don't have to worry about me selling my patents to a troll and hurting you. You've already gone a long way, I think, to building trust and distinguishing your company and yourself from all the others that are trying to get the attention of the large companies.
Ed, do we have any more questions?
Not via email, no. I did want to highlight for everybody that this presentation will be saved to YouTube, and at some point, once that's been processed, we'll make sure to send the link to the YouTube presentation to everybody that's interested in the presentation.
Any further questions? Ken, did you have any additional comments?
No, I was just going to mention, so, my job is to answer questions and to grow the network. So, Keith and I are actually going to be in Berlin on October 21st. So if we have anybody from Europe who may want to have a face-to-face meeting or for coffee or ask further questions, let Keith and I know. We can arrange something around the Berlin October 21st date. Keith and I, too, are also going to be in New York City on October 28th, speaking at an LES presentation at the annual Licensing Executive Society in New York. We also have a couple other events planned for later in the year. So lots going to be on the road. I'm glad to meet with anybody. Please, the materials that, when Ed sends around the materials have my contact information, I certainly welcome, certainly contact me. The other thing, last thing I want to offer is, a lot of my member companies are huge advocates and zealots of LOT. For example, we have the CFO of the Khan Academy is a member of LOT and a big zealot. We've got the General Counsel, of course, of Red Hat, the General Counsel of Pure Storage. We've got the Chief IP Counsel of Uber. We can, to help evangelize LOT within your own company, I have a standing offer from the General Counsels and CFOs and Chief IP Counsels of my member companies from various industries who are willing to talk to your General Counsel or to your CFO and to kind of address any concerns and have a private conversation or explain why they joined. So if there's any of that conversation, and also we have about half a dozen law firms that we've trained and briefed on LOT. And if you would like, I am glad to spend time with your law firms walking them through the agreement so they're in a better position to counsel you on the pros and cons of the agreement or the concerns that you might have. So we certainly want to do anything we can to reduce any barriers from you joining. That's it.
And for my part, at most of the events that I've been at over the last 1.5 to 2 years since the original design and development work was going on at Google to create the lot structure, I've been talking about it at events, and I'm more than happy if you can't get Ken to field any questions and to refer them to Ken so he can follow up. Again, the whole notion of patent non-aggression is something that's very important to me personally and professionally, and to be able to nurture programs like LotNet is part of our responsibility and obligation to you and the community, because any way that we can reduce patent friction and encourage more collaboration and innovation is a positive force and something that we want to encourage. So I appreciate and thank Ken for joining us today. And any questions that you have for him, I really encourage you to reach out and solicit his counsel on how you might become involved in LotNet.
Yeah, thank you, Keith. I forgot to thank you too. Keith is, of course, on our advisory board for LOT, and so I wanted to thank Keith's support and advocacy, and certainly I would hope the OIN community feels like any concerns that might be special to them, feel free to channel them through Keith, and Keith is definitely a very active member in LOT and can make sure your concerns are well heard.
Thank you, everyone, and we will be doing this again in November. We will send out advance notice of the next speaker and the next topic. Thank you again. We'll look forward to talking with you and sharing ideas and information through this channel.
Thanks, everyone.